Here's another episode of the LHP podcast. We tend to try to cover as many topics as possible. When it comes to life, there's so many things that are taking place right now. And there's a lot of negative influences out there, especially in our city. You would think, as loving as we are as a community, as accepting, every now and then you have that one person that is just not contributing in a positive manner when it comes to building people up. And what we want to do is we want to be able to highlight those people that are always a positive influence on others, but not only that, can teach the importance of valuing that self-esteem, that self-worth, the being able to build on our youth so that they can grow up with a sense of values that are really going to help our El Paso community. We start to see a lot of negativity out there because of the internet, a lot of copycats doing things that technically are not productive for our community. They're counterproductive, as a matter of fact. So in this crazy day and age, if you're an adult or a child, I think it's important to understand that we could teach how to build that confidence in several ways. Our guest today, Frisco de Leon, is a black belt JiuJitsu professor, and he currently does coaching, and he teaches, and he's also at the Gracie Barra Academy here in El Paso, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the importance of self-esteem, confidence, and setting boundaries. So without further ado, Professor, thank you for being with us today.
Doing, man? Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I can't complain, man. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This is one of the most anticipated podcasts that I wanted to do, because people don't understand that there's a correlation between mental health and jiu-jitsu. Yes. Have you heard that before?
I have, yes. Yeah. That's a big thing in the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah. Sure. And how did, when you heard about it, because I heard through it, through the grapevine, other podcasters, as a matter of fact, they mentioned the fact that jiu-jitsu is an art form that is so important, that can teach so many things in our community. What's jiu-jitsu to you?
Man, jiu-jitsu to me right now is jiu-jitsu is my life. Jiu-jitsu is it's a lifestyle for me. They have what's called the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. So every day training, eating right, not just being good necessarily on the mats, but trying to be good in all other areas of your life. You know what I mean? So it's just like, man, being a good son, being a good father, being a good relative, all those things can translate into like living the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. But the main thing with the jiu-jitsu is, one, the training, me teaching, giving back to my students, and my most favorite is going out there competing and training. That's jiu-jitsu lifestyle for me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I discovered jiu-jitsu back in the 90s. It was back in 93 or 94. It was Royce Gracie who fought against Dan Severn, the Beast.
Yep.
And I was so impressed because I was looking at this event. I was in high school at this time. This was a long time ago. But I was tripping out on this event because I was like, the biggest guy in that octagon is going to be the winner, no doubt. The most muscular, the biggest, the strongest looking monster, King Kong looking monsters, is going to be the one that's going to end up with the belt.
Right.
So you start watching this whole thing, and it was like watching one of those Van Damme blood sports movies from back in the 80s where you say, okay, well, there's, that's just a movie. But lo and behold, I saw this guy just grappling these monsters to the floor, these heavy duty muscular type characters, and he would submit them. And he ended up winning the whole bout. I mean, that's how I discovered jiu-jitsu. How is it that you discovered it?
Man, so I started jiu-jitsu back in 2002. I was 11 years old, out in Houston, Texas. And
are you from H-Town?
I'm from H-Town.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So my dad and all that side of my family are from the Houston area. So yes, for sure, H-Town, what's up? And so that's how I got my start. And my very first instructor, Tony Torres Aponte, was actually a student of Royce and Hickson back in the 80s in California. So I had already been wrestling. I had already wrestled for 1 year. I started wrestling when I was 10. So when I
Is
would go
that
visit,
Greco-Roman?
nah, no, just a folk style, like,
Uh-huh.
youth club wrestling.
Hmm.
So when I would go visit my dad in the summers in Houston, it was kind of like, you're not just gonna lay around and do nothing. You're gonna do something. And where we lived, the jujitsu gym was literally down the street. So that's how I got my start. And at this time, like, no one knows like really what it is. This is like the summer of '02. So it wasn't really as known back then. If you were in it, of course, if you were in like combat sports and things like that, then you knew. But
Hmm.
it definitely wasn't as mainstream as it is now. Now you got flow grappling, you got YouTube, you got all these things, and back then that stuff just wasn't around. So
Hmm.
I'm fortunate enough to you know have been able to find it. When I did at relatively a young age.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So what triggered your what sparked your interest the most about learning the discipline?
Man, since I got into sport, I've always been a bigger guy, like a
Hmm.
bigger kid, even like, so at this time when I started, I'm like 11, 12 years old.
I saw pictures of you
Uh,
on
right,
Instagram with
right,
your
right,
mom and dad, I think,
right,
and
right.
yeah, yeah, I did see how
So,
tall you
so,
were.
so I've always been like a heavier set, kid, even as a boy.
Hmm.
So I was 11, 12 years old. I was already 200 pounds, you know. So when I got into sports, there was something always about like knowing how to use my weight or knowing how to use my strength, against other people, and it always
Hmm.
just kind of came natural to me.
Hmm.
Ultimately I enjoyed it,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed it more because I'm able to. At the time, like I said, I was 200 pounds, so there's no kids class for me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm way too big, so I'm training with adults.
Hmm.
So as we're going on talking about this, building that self confidence. I'm 11, 12 years old, like hanging with these adults or submitting some of these adults, and I'm just like, wow,
Hmm.
so that's one thing that just always it always intrigued me. I've always just been real good at using my weight, using my size, at such a
Were
young
you always
age.
self-aware of that?
I
About,
I
the
wasn't.
advantage?
I wasn't when I was really young. So, we're talking about self confidence, self
Hmm.
esteem, and
Hmm.
bullying and things like that. So I grew up. I was the gordito.
Hmm.
So man, I got picked on. I heard every fat joke in the book. I heard every your mama joke in the book. Things like that. So it wasn't actually until my first sport was football.
Hmm.
So it wasn't actually until I got into football where I stopped getting picked on. Why? Because, oh man, someone like push them out the way or like knock somebody over. It's like, you're not gonna mess with me no more.
Uh-huh.
So football was actually my first love, my first sport that got me to build that confidence. But yeah, I don't definitely growing up. Oh man, I got picked on. I'd come out, I'd be scared, I'd be crying. Bullies and
Hmm.
things like that.
How did this journey, learning jujitsu and all the other disciplines that you have, help you manage and well manage through all the negative influences that life presents to you? How does it help you channel that negative energy to make it a positive thing?
So with that, like, I grew up in the Northeast. Obviously, I went to Parkland Elementary, Parkland Middle. So, and during this time, even like in the '90s, early 2000s, man, there was already gang banging and gangs, and
It was heavier back then,
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, most definitely that was
Hmm.
like and I'm talking like even more sixth, seventh grade, around that time, that was really heavy back then, especially like in that Northeast area.
Hmm.
So, man, all my friends would get into it and things like that, and me, I always had sports,
Hmm.
and this isn't even, I wasn't even really into the jujitsu back then like that. Like I said, my thing was football.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was always like, oh no, man, I gotta like, they're like, hey, come over here. We're gonna be with the homies and like do this and that, and we're gonna go to, and it's just like, nah, like I got practice later, like so school sports and the martial arts have always kept my head on straight, So there's like, man, like I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be those guys. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to like do any of those things.
So would you say you grew up around an environment where there was a lot of drug use, alcohol? gang banging, stuff like that?
I feel like that's everywhere. You can find that everywhere nowadays. But yes, most definitely in the area that we lived in, it was a heavy area for that for sure. You know, my mother did a real good job of raising me right, keeping me away from the wrong people and things like that. But yeah, you as you get older, you're still gonna you make decisions for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is self-confidence for you, and what role did your mom play in being able to give you that self-confidence?
Man, self-confidence for me is like achieving goals, achieving your goals. You know what I mean? You want to build confidence. I'm just gonna give you an example. It's just like, oh, like I want to lose 10 pounds. You lose 10 pounds in a few weeks, and you hit that goal, it makes you feel good about yourself. You know what I mean? So you can kind of use that, like, in any aspect of life. You know what I mean? Or some people is like, oh man, like passing the big test on a big math test, big exam, you pass that test. Oh man, I did better than I thought. I got an A+ instead of this B or C. Makes you feel good. Makes you be, I am smart. I can do this. And man, as far as with my mom, my mother, hey mom, how are you?
Yeah, saludo,
man,
right?
yeah, so
Mrs. De Leon.
So I grew up. She's Giannis right now.
My bad. Saludos.
So man, during those years, she was single mom before my brother came into the picture. So we had those years from when I was born to about 12, 13 years old, where it was just her and I. So man, she she gave me like the mother's love that everyone should have. You know what I mean? Especially the love between a single mother and her son. So she always, inspired me to, don't let people push you around. Don't let people bully you. Don't let or something's going on, tell me, she'd go, literally fight my battles in elementary school.
Yeah,
because I'm telling you, I got picked on. I was so I was so big for my age, and, it was just inevitable for me to, get bullied. And, but no, she was very stern, very strict. So it was definitely even more why I didn't want to get in trouble, because I was afraid of the repercussions from my mom, for sure. But as far as my sports and jiu-jitsu and wrestling and things like that, she was always my biggest fan, my number one supporter.
Yeah, that's good, man. We don't know how important it is for, and I had an episode on this, Professor, not too long ago. I had a couple of therapists come on and talk to our audience about the importance of being a parent and being involved and being at those special events, the football games, the tournaments, and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you learned so much from your mom growing up.
Oh, yes.
And she's been an awesome example for you. How has that filtered down to you now that you have your baby also?
I have a daughter, yes.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what that's like for you right now.
Man, so just off the top, man, being a father, being a dad, I mean, as you know, man, it's the best feeling in the world. And I didn't know how much I needed her until she was actually there. It's different, like people always say, oh, just wait till it's your turn, to be a father. And then, because, before you'd be like, oh, I can do that, I understand, but it's until they're a little baby and you carry them for the first time, that's when you really start to understand. So I enjoy it. As of right now, that's the best title that I have, is a daddy.
How did it change your life?
Man, just I'm definitely ain't no saint. You know what I mean? We all have our our things that we do and things like that, and just made me, you have to have those talks with yourself. I had those talks with myself in the mirror. It's just like, hey man, like, what are you doing, bro? Like what are you, like, yeah, you're doing jiu-jitsu, yes, you're training, you're going out of but it's just like, hey, like, it's not, you can't be selfish no more with yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you gonna be able to provide for this person you created? And I think that was like the biggest motivation for me to change. So it just changed the mentality and looking things from a different perspective, especially now, like, I'm riding around with her. It's like, going the speed limit, always seatbelt, things like that, like, or some person would be driving by and flip me off something. I'm like, hey, well, let's pull over. So
Yeah.
you can't think in those same terms, when you don't have a child, a kid, and then in my case a daughter, you can't do some of the same things that you used to do, and that's what I feel is it's a big part of evolving yourself, getting better yourself, not staying content, not staying complacent, always trying to do better in whichever area of your life it may be.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's an awesome answer right
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
How does jujitsu help an individual be less impulsive? I mean, think about this one, because you go to tournaments all the time,
Right.
and
Right.
I've seen you do some stuff. I've seen you hurt a couple of opponents. I think my wife was watching one of your videos the other day, and I don't know what happened, but some guy's leg, you popped it out of socket or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know this is kind of a tricky question, but it is a very legit question when it comes to jujitsu and impulse control.
Right. So in the terms of like, and if I'm competing in a jujitsu match, it's you have to. It's about decision making. It's about what kind of game, what kind of style are you trying to play against this other person who may have like a different style. So you're too focused on trying not to get beat up or trying not to get submitted or trying not to get embarrassed out there to think about anything else, you know what I mean? So you need to have clear decision making skills, you know what I mean? So it's just like you say, you're talking about being impulsive. I might be like, oh, I should go this, or I should play this kind of game with this person. When in the back of your mind, well, no, I should really play this other way, and like, because sometimes your own ego will get in the way.
Uh-huh.
Just by and that's another thing. Like, you can't go off just looks anymore. You know what I mean? Because you see these guys, big, jacked, roided up guys. They get beat all the time by some pudgy, flabby guy. So you can't let your ego get in the way as far as like your decision making skills. You know what I mean? So it's kind of making the right decisions, and jujitsu definitely, if you make one wrong decision, in the terms of like in a match, it could cost you the whole fight. You know what I mean?
So it's kind of like playing a game of chess.
Oh yeah, it's human chess. That's exactly what they call it. It's human chess. It's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of tactics. It's that's what they call jujitsu. It's the game of human chess.
Nice. So when you have students and you talk to them, I pay a lot of attention, even though sometimes, I'm there and there's the acoustics are not that great, the air conditioners on and all that. I know that when you teach theory behind jujitsu, and that is when the kids are lined up and you're having a conversation with them about how to apply a certain move, I know you use context, and I know a lot of it you use with let's go ahead and say a bully comes up to you, this is what you're going to do. I like that you do that.
Right.
What have you seen that it teaches kids, and how do you teach the kids once they're there that they can't be in that position where they do the bullying?
So the kids that we get, a lot of them come to us because they have been bullied, so when I speak like that, like, oh, okay, the bully's gonna come up and grab you and stuff like that, it's kind of like I'm speaking their language. You have, because you got to think of the age level. So we start them off at 3, and then they go all the way up until the adults. So I'm speaking to them in a context that they can understand. And you can see when a student starts to get really good, that they like being the big dog on the mat, and they can even kind of quote unquote be a bully in the jujitsu class, but they're always taking somebody down, always submitting somebody, or maybe you might have some kids that are a little too rough with others, so that's why you'll hear me in class all the time, hey, like, take care of your friends, take care of your partners. Hey, there's no gold medal being won here today. This isn't a championship tournament, right? So, at the end of the day, you need each other to get better. You need training partners to get better, because without training partners, we're nothing. Even myself, the adults, so we can't do nothing without people to train with. So when the kids start going, like, if I have this kid who's more skilled, more advanced than these other kids, I'm like, hey man, take care of them, go slow, and luckily I haven't had anything too serious happen to where I have a really skilled kid that hurts another kid. That's not the way, we do things. At least that in our academy, at least at the gym that I train at. And so, when if there is an issue with that, all the kids, pull them to the side. Hey man, relax, slow down. I mean, look at you, you're big, strong, foul. This other kid's, this other kid might just be, his trial class or the first month, so and I try to use it with the words, trying to try to humble the students a little bit, because like I said, sometimes even with the kids more, the ego gets involved. The ego can get involved, and the kids can be so competitive. They don't want to lose. They don't want to, and even more in front of the parents. Sometimes the parents will put more pressure on their own kid than the actual class itself. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But when I get into those positions where I have to taper a kid down, it's just kind of, hey man, like, I'll pull him to the side, or pull her to the side. Hey, do it this way too. And then they're always, they always trust my judgment on that. Like, I usually don't have to tell you more than once. Some kids twice, but yeah,
that's one of the things that I've noticed with my son, because my son is actually training for jiu-jitsu right now, 7-year-old little guy. But I know one thing for sure: when he tries to get a little too on the edgy side, all I have to say is, "I'm going to tell your professor," and right away he's like, "No, don't say anything." So that's what I like about it too, the fact that there's a discipline behind that. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So with parents, there's a lot of parents listening to this. How does what you do build confidence in the kids that are under your belt, that you teach, that you see?
Man, so like I said, once a kid starts getting good at it, or they start, oh man, I can take somebody down, I can submit somebody. It's like the highs of this sport, any combat sport, man. The highs are like none other, even in the training room, And the same thing with the lows. The lows are it's the worst thing you could ever experience. Losing at a tournament or losing in practice, but it's also the opposite. The highs are like unlike no other. So when a kid starts actually getting good, that's where you'll see the confidence. They start walking in differently. The parents are coming up to me telling, "Oh man, thank you so much for pushing little Juanito," or whoever the kid may be. There's just a bunch of, you can go from like, the kid might be his first sport, it might be his first martial arts. Some kids come to us, they have no experience. They've never done nothing. They need to get up off the couch. They need to get moving, and the first thing is, it's hard. We're running, you're doing all the drills, you're doing things like that, so
getting in shape.
Yeah. So and that's just kind of, again, the way that they're able to what's the word that I'm looking for? Kind of like assess themselves. It's just like, okay, like the first day, first week, it's hard, but 2 months in, they're doing the warm up like nothing. They're not getting tired. They're not winded, and they're doing good during their sparring sessions.
That's cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it all has a beginning. From the beginning, you got the warm up, you got the theory, you got the application, and then you also have the demonstration.
Right.
I love that. That's like a good little organization that takes place, where it just contributes to the child or the student or the adult being able to grab the whole sport holistically and benefit off of it. That's gnarly.
All right.
So how does it help with mental health? How has it helped you in mental health and becoming a better father, or managing life? That'll be our last question.
Right. So we, there's again, in the mental health, in these days, it's so much bigger now than what it was like maybe 20 years ago, things like that. Especially, amongst men,
Mm-hmm.
men were always taught oh, we suffer in silence, you know what I mean? We don't have time to be sad or like, things like that. So the way that it's helped me is just like, man, there's been points in my life where it could be anything. It could be a romantic breakup, a breakup with a girlfriend, something like that, financial issues, financial stuff. There's be times where I'll teach and I literally have to stop myself from crying,
Mm-hmm.
So what it's done for me is that it's always been there. No
Mm-hmm.
matter how crazy my life was at the time or how sad or how upset or how mad I was, the mats were always there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it does for me. So, you know, be times where I'm, like I said, man, like I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with these kids. I don't want to do anything like that. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but I switch my mindset. It's like, hey, man, like this is a privilege to get to do this. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to go to where I have to. No, I get to do this. I get to help others. I get to, be a leader and be on the mats and things like that. So yeah, it's helped me. I'm telling you, man, I've been literally on the brink of like
Mm-hmm.
losing it. Very emotional, very sad, like, holding back tears, literally. And then, man, I'll see one of the little kids say, hey, Professor, hi. And then it's just like, no, man, you can't let them see you like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just the mats have just always been there. And when you're training, when you're rolling, you don't have time to think about anything else. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Because you're worried about what you're doing, or you're worried about defending yourself. You can't let somebody else, like, get you in a choke or get you in a submission,
Yeah.
so you don't have time to think about yourself. So even if it's just for an hour, I did my training sessions, usually an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just at least for that hour, like, I don't think about nothing else aside from what I'm doing right there. And then afterwards, like, oh, like, I'm still sad, but not as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like that form I exercise,
Uh-huh.
I'm out of breath, things like that. So let me get some of this water.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, so definitely, man. I mean, all those key elements that you throw into the training and the
Yeah.
camaraderie. I think the camaraderie is something extremely valuable in jiu-jitsu, man. I see a lot of these
The brotherhood.
the brotherhood. Yeah, they come in and they're excited about going in there and hitting the mats, like you say, and those connections. Because I see that a lot of you guys have a good bond between you guys as homies there at the studio, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Professor Jeff also.
Professor Jeff, yeah, GB El Paso. Yeah, we're all right there. Yeah, man, the brotherhood is a big part of it, and jiu-jitsu in general. You meet people on the jiu-jitsu mats that you wouldn't normally meet, in your everyday life. It's like, man, we got doctors, we got lawyers, we got law enforcement, we got military, we got high school kids, we got college kids, we got people from all walks of life, and you meet on the jiu-jitsu, man. It's just like, oh man, hey, I'm friend with this doctor, I'm friend with this lawyer, like, and that's how it brings people together, because you come a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like to like explain to people, and of course, and it's just like doing anything new for the first time. It's scary. Some people, literally they'll go sit in their car, they'll park outside, and then some people won't even come, that's the hard part, is just walking through the door. The same thing with people going to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
some people, I've seen it, literally will drive to the gym, sit in the kind of, and they don't go in,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the hard part. But once you make that step, it's just like, hey, like, there's this welcoming environment. Hey, what's up, man? On the mats, and this is how we do things. And in the jiu-jitsu culture, this is how it should be. This is the way it is. Some gyms might be a little different, but I feel like, with myself, I try to make everybody feel welcome.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
even if it's not with me, it could be with another person that's gonna be training in the same class with you. There's always somebody there to help you, if you don't know what you're doing, So at the end of the day, yeah, I've met some of, my really, really good friends, good people through jiu-jitsu mats, people that I would have never encountered in my life if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu, because people look up to me as a black belt, as a professor, as a fighter, whatever the case may be. It's like, oh man, but I look up to you for what you, man. You're a father. The things you have, the house you live, like, I'm like that. I look up to you in these other ways, So that's how you coexist with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
That,
Yeah, and I testify to that because I seen how you guys treat all the families that go in. You guys greet them well, and then at the end you see professor right there at the door saying later to everybody, and the kids really enjoy that also. Right. One last question before we move on, because believe it or not, man, it's that's been quick. Do you recommend, because a lot of people, and this is a silly question, but for the sake of just asking the question, the girls that get involved in jiu-jitsu, why is it beneficial for them to get involved in jiu-jitsu?
Man, so with the women, man, more women need to do jiu-jitsu a lot more. And I'm just going to say that off the top. Women should get into jiu-jitsu or any combat sport. What I mean? Women should learn how to fight, defend themselves because of the way the world is right now. It's crazy. With the women, I feel like women make, or
even with the young girls, like that are
they go. I feel like the women and females in general, they have different upbringings than us men, boys. You know what I mean? And it's hard because this is a male dominant sport. It is a male dominant martial art. So it could be like intimidating, but man, you'll get this. You'll get a female that comes in and she starts training. She's training with all the men. Right, there's no other women to train with, things like that. And once she can, I've seen more women able to handle the intensiveness of the training than a lot of grown men like ever in my life. The women that I've seen excel and do well in jiu-jitsu are a part of like this tiny percentage, opposed to some man walking in, trying the class, right? A female try the class, oh man, they'll come back. They like it.
They like the challenge.
Yeah, right. You see a male that'll come in, it's just like, man, can't do the warm up, can't do a push up, can't do anything, and then they don't come back. Just because it's hard. Yeah. So with the women, even more, it builds their confidence because
love that right there, man.
Because with the training, especially when they start training, with men, they're able to, I can defend myself, or I can even attack against someone who's bigger, stronger, faster than me, through using the technique,
Yeah.
And you got to think when you're on the mat, it's jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, right? But if you get a female just out in like another setting, it's jiu-jitsu against a non-trained person, and that's what can help them.
That's the advantage right there
as well. Yes, for sure. So man, it's props to all the females, all the women, in the community and in the sport right now. I think more women need to come in and try and and practice. You don't need to be a hardcore competitor or anything crazy like that, but just going in to train, learning something, and as well getting a workout. Hey, there's nothing else like it.
Nice, right, man. Well, I want to thank you for being on our show today, man.
I appreciate you.
All the information that you give is extremely useful, man. I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit from this podcast.
Thank you, man.
And they're gonna see the other side of this beautiful sport, and the many benefits that it has on building self-confidence, self-esteem, being a better person, being a better family man, and contributing to better mental health also.
Yes, sir.
So I do appreciate that, man. We're going to go ahead and link all your information onto the podcast.
Yes, sir.
And once again, man, we do appreciate you being with us, Professor.
I appreciate you too, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
And that will conclude our show. We'll see you guys next week.